When a patient overhears a diagnosis or a client hears a legal strategy from the hallway, your facility has suffered a physical security breach. Under privacy laws like PHIA in Ontario or the HIA in Alberta, this constitutes a measurable failure in administrative and physical safeguards. The problem traces back to standard commercial office fit-outs. While basic construction and standard drywall effectively divide space, these materials lack the mass necessary to block intelligible human speech. To identify where your practice is leaking sensitive data, we will walk through a 4-phase speech privacy self-audit. You can perform these physical tests in your own clinic or firm right now. You will need a printed checklist, a single sheet of paper, and a colleague to help test. To begin the audit, have your colleague enter a private consultation room and close the door completely. Have them read a document aloud at a normal conversational volume. Performing these tests ourselves removes the guesswork. Relying on assumptions about your office walls leaves your professional reputation and your legal compliance entirely up to chance. Phase 1 focuses on the doorway. Stand in the hallway outside the closed consultation room and listen to your colleague reading inside. Perform the first test by attempting to slide your sheet of paper underneath the bottom of the closed door. This diagram illustrates a core principle of acoustics. Sound behaves like water, traveling along the exact same paths as air. If your paper slides through that gap, intelligible speech is escaping the room through the same opening. To fix this specific failure point, an automatic door bottom is required. This mechanism physically drops a dense seal down to the floor the moment the door clicks shut, cutting off the air gap. Next, inspect the perimeter of the door frame. Check if the rubber or brush seals are missing, cracked, or failing to make full contact. Then, knock on the door itself. A hollow sound indicates a standard interior door rather than a heavy, solid-core commercial slab. Finally, place your ear near the door handle to determine if sound is leaking directly through the hardware cutouts. Doors are consistently the weakest link in room isolation. Even the thickest walls are rendered useless by a single millimeter of unsealed doorway airspace. For Phase 2, step into the adjacent office or waiting room to check for the up and over effect. Listen to determine if your colleague's voice is coming from the ceiling tiles rather than the shared wall. This occurs because of the plenum, the hidden hollow cavity existing between your suspended drop ceiling grid and the true concrete roof of the building. As this graphic shows, standard partition walls often stop at the drop ceiling line. This leaves the shared plenum entirely open, allowing sound to travel up into the cavity, over the wall, and down into the next room. Blocking this overhead sound path requires a continuous plenum barrier. This is a high-mass vertical partition installed above the ceiling grid that seals the open space all the way up to the concrete deck. If it is safe to do so, lift a ceiling tile. Look for missing sound-absorbing insulation above the wall or unsealed recessed lighting fixtures that create direct holes into the ceiling cavity. An aesthetically pleasing office design provides no privacy if the invisible architecture above those ceiling tiles acts as a shared broadcasting system. Phase 3 addresses the ventilation system. Commercial heating and cooling setups are frequent conduits for acoustic leaks. Look at the ceiling vents to see if the private consultation room and the waiting room share an open air return grill without acoustic lining. While the HVAC fan is turned off, listen closely to the air vents. Note whether your colleague's voice echoes through the metalwork, projecting into the adjacent room. This diagram shows how interconnected metal ductwork bypasses wall insulation, carrying sound waves cleanly from room A to room B. Untreated, unlined ductwork acts as a direct conduit for confidential conversations to leave the room. Finally, Phase 4 examines the wall structure and flanking paths. A flanking path is any alternate route sound takes to bypass a primary obstacle by seeking the path of least resistance. Inspect the shared wall for back-to-back electrical outlets. Aligning these boxes creates a literal hole through the drywall. Check for uncaulked gaps behind the floor baseboards. If your office features glass walls, inspect the metal window mullions connecting the glass panes for similar leaks. This cutaway demonstrates that achieving true speech privacy requires structural engineering rather than basic contractor insulation. A high-performance wall assembly achieving a sound transmission class or STC rating of 60 or higher requires specific components. STC is a numerical rating of how well a building partition attenuates airborne sound. This assembly utilizes staggered metal studs to reduce structural bridging, resilient channels to break vibration paths, and double layers of 5/8-inch drywall sealed with acoustic sealant. True acoustic isolation relies on decoupling rigid structures and adding shear mass to physically stop vibration transfer. Tally your findings. If you discovered light under doors, voices over the ceiling, or echoes in the vents, your office has active structural vulnerabilities. This chart displays the compliance target for professional practices, a noise isolation class or NIC rating of 45 to 50 or higher. The NIC is a field-tested metric that measures the total sound insulation between two specific rooms. At this confidential grade level, even loud speech is rendered nearly inaudible. Do not rely on guesswork or DIY insulation patches. Basic aesthetic fixes routinely fail formal compliance audits and leave your liability exposed. The permanent solution is verifiable, data-driven engineering. This level of isolation requires professional acoustic contractors who test and construct the environment to meet strict standards. To secure your practice, book a comprehensive acoustic assessment with the engineering team at Inaudible. They provide tailored remediation plans for professional spaces in Toronto and Calgary. Engineered silence is the only verifiable way to guarantee that patient and client conversations remain completely confidential.